अशोक साहब, आप सिटी नेट के मेंबर है कि नहीं है?
तो लिखे
आप आर यू मेंबर ऑफ द सिटी नेट और नॉट अ मेंबर ऑफ द सिटी नेट?
तो लिखे
सिटी नेट के।
no no
हाँ,
I
हाँ,
know
आपका आपका सिटी।
CityNet Turikal municipality it's now not including the CityNet member, but UCLG we are actively member of the UCLG United States of Local Government.
ओके, 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 ओके,
So you can start.
ओके, ओके। थैंक यू चित्राक्षी, थैंक यू एवरीवन, friends and colleagues. I'm delighted and consider it my privilege to welcome you to the 135th chapter of the webinar series that INHAF is presenting for the past few years. The webinar series is appropriately called Rethinking City. As many of you know, we have had over 600 experts, professionals, specialists, community groups, and concerned citizens from all over the world presenting their views, perspectives, and solutions on a good number of urban themes and sub-themes. We examine topics such as urban governance, municipal finance, public transport, climate change, infrastructure development, slums, housing, poverty, even Gandhi and city. Also, informal economy. We've dealt with a large number of subjects over the period of last 4 years. And today is the third episode of a five-part webinar series on climate change and cities that we are doing in collaboration with CityNet, CANSA, that is Climate Action Network South Asia, and AIDMI, that is All India Disaster Mitigation Institute. This collaboration has not only widened our reach, but have brought in many rich experiences from cities of the region. And all of us know that the climate change is no longer a distant possibility projected by some scientists, but a powerful reality. It's a visible and a real threat, and preparing for it globally, regionally, nationally, locally, and even at the family and personal level is an inescapable compulsion. And as it demands some far-reaching changes in the way we live, the way we grow, develop, produce, transact, commute, and relate, it is to be seen in the context of economies and societies we have created. As it demands a new equation with the nature and our natural and built environment, it also demands rethinking our cities. Before I tell you why we are on this webinar series for long, let me inform you, especially those who are interested, that we are presenting some 20 new webinars in the coming few months. That includes a series of 6 webinars on a versatile slum upgrading program in Orissa, which is showing a way to deal with the slum problem creatively in our cities. What's happening in big cities and small towns of Orissa has such potential for adoption and replication in other cities of the country and the region, even globally, that we have named the series Slums Are Solvable. And the learning is so relevant that we have 6 partner agencies in organizing the series, including UN Habitat and Cities Alliance, 2 international agencies handling habitat and slum issues globally. The inaugural event takes place on 30th of September, and we will issue the entire program and invite to join very soon. Let me tell you why we are doing this webinars for so long. What are our objectives? What do we hope to achieve? To answer that, I'm sharing with you some questions we have been asking through these webinars. It's about India's urban challenge, its complex nature, our inadequate response, its impact on the nature of our cities and quality of life of the citizens. Price we will pay if we do not wake up to the demands of the challenge and need to put together a broad-based, widely inclusive societal partnership. Some of the questions that we've been asking are the following. And these are very important questions, and we need to answer them. Are we ready to absorb, and that too properly, over 350 million people who would be in our cities in 25 more years? By 2050, we are estimated to have 870 million people in our cities. Second question, are we ready to build in the coming 25 years more than what we have built or constructed in the past 70 years in form of infrastructure and services, without polluting our environment, without destroying nature's systems, and without contributing to greenhouse gases? Can we do that? The climate threat has a special connect with urbanization and cities. And how are we preparing for it? Will slums disappear in the coming 15, 20 years' time? And the last question is the estimate that meeting the urban infrastructure deficit in 20 years, US dollars 640 billion is required. Under JNNURM, one of the better conceived urban infrastructure investment program, you could manage spending just $14 billion in 10 years. So talking about spending $640 billion in 20 years, and we manage only $14 billion in 10 years during JNNURM, and that too huffing and puffing. So the question is, do we have the required resources and institutional capacity to upgrade infrastructure investment at the required level? This webinar series is to take the urban challenge to people, the urban challenge that I talked about in nutshell to the people. It's based on the conviction that India's urban challenge is very formidable, and meeting it is not possible by any single agency or institution. Meeting the urban challenge in a manner which delivers good, livable cities requires a broader societal partnership, and all actors and stakeholders will need to contribute. And what we're doing is a very small part of the effort to building a wider societal partnership. With this long introduction about the webinar series in terms of why we are doing it for the last 4 years and why have we reached 135th today, I would hand this over to my colleague Varsha. But before I do that, I must briefly introduce Varsha. Varsha, Minnie, Veronica, Jeyaseelan, I didn't even know that she has such a long name, is the project lead for climate studies and research at Habitat Forum INHAF. She is with us. She works at the intersection of climate resilience and community engagement, leading initiatives that bridge policy and practice, with a strong focus on inclusive and participatory approaches. So this is, and I must say that, I must thank Varsha because, she came in the last moment. We had earlier thought about Mihir Bhai from AIDMI, but Mihir Bhai couldn't join, and therefore Varsha has kindly helped us at the last moment. So thank you, Varsha, and the distinguished panelists. It's all yours now. Varsha. Varsha.
Hello, Varsha, we can't hear you.
Varsha is not there?
So she's here.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. It's just that the network at my place is a bit feeble. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, sir, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Varsha, and I have the pleasure of moderating this conversation today. So, if our first session explored global perspectives, today, this discussion, we focus on cities, the front line of climate action. So, our theme for this discussion is city scale climate actions, that's the trends and opportunities that lie within. Cities are where climate risks are most visible and where solutions must take shape. So, in this session, we are yet to explore what makes city level action effective, the barriers that remain, and the opportunities for innovation and collaboration. So, I think let's begin with our first speaker. So, it's an honor to start with Honorable Mayor Ashok Kumar Byanju, Mayor Dhulikhel Municipality, Nepal, who has been a strong advocate for climate sensitive governance and local leadership. So, generally, municipalities like smaller municipalities like Dhulikhel often face challenges such as limited resources, technical gaps, and competing priorities. At Dhulikhel municipality has made significant progress in certain climate actions. So, we would love to hear your perspective on what it takes for cities to move from planning to implementation and the challenges you've encountered along the way. And building on that, one question we would like to explore together is what helped Dhulikhel overcome all these barriers and what structural changes at national or global level would make implementation easier for cities like yours. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Namaskar and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to share about the Dhulikhel municipality and what we are doing and clean and healthy environment. Dhulikhel now it is rapidly urbanized and as a people migrate from the neighbor rural area, and recently the healthy city Dhulikhel is the WHO recognized the healthy city of Asian second level and the first healthy city of Nepal. That was we are working together with so many sectors, not only the health related of the health like property, like drinking water, education, and environment related action also. And United Nations also recognized the Dhulikhel municipality is the SDG goal related PLR report we already completed in the South Asian first city, property reduction, drinking water, health and education is already we are completed to the close by UN goal, SDG goal. That was Dhulikhel municipality. Nowadays, we are prioritizing the relative of the climate action, zero emission, zero carbon activities. After promulgating in Nepal, constitution is providing so many rights for the local government. Still now, in Nepal, local government is very powerful. We have 22 special right and 15 concurrent right. That was the municipal government is working the different sector education, health, environment, forestry sector, climate, taxation, and institutional development. Laws constitutionally, we have right to the setting the local Adalat also. That was we are so many different activities during the my period. When I was elected the mayor of this town, that time just 31% people have safe drinking water. Nowadays we are completely to the 97% people have safe drinking water, and around 40% wastewater treatment plant also we have, and before 30% people is below poverty. Nowadays we are managing the women, youth, indigenous, disabled, and orphan also. We have councils. That councils we provide 1 crore rupees Nepalese annually, and we empowering skill development and entrepreneurship development. We are collaborating with the local people to empowering and skill development and entrepreneurship. That program is actively very succeed. Nowadays just 5.2% people are below poverty, and still now we are working together with the one of the international community to research and research program that is the microeconomic analysis to we municipal government is want to what kind of the poverty is there, and how to implementing the zero poverty. And second thing is the zero carbon city also. We are working together with the various institutions. Now local community and our ward and municipal government work together with the international community also to increase the and carbon emission activities, how to implementing that activities. And still now in Dhulikhel municipality, we are working together with the Rotary Club of Dhulikhel and the Dhulikhel Hospital, Kathmandu University, working together with developing the zero carbon. And recently, we are working together with our Nepal, Energy Nepal, to developing the energy efficiency city. Now we are already completed to our bylaws and the policies also. That is the our important activities. And recently, municipality is declaring the planting the 10,000 plantation, and still now we are completed to the 27,000 plantation is already we are covering last year, and especially developing it the forest and agriculture production. Already 89% residents use to the clean cooking energy, and we are distributing the free electric induction stove to the for the people. Just now 4.2% people have they are cooking to from wood, but now we are distributing the induction to minimize the carbon. Recently, Dhulikhel municipality is declaring our council meeting. Dhulikhel is working together the private sector and the corporate sector, also industrial sector, to developing the green energy activities. That was the municipality is we our wastewater treatment plant is already we are working together with the community treatment system, and not only the municipal core area wastewater treatment plant. UCLG, Municipal Association of Nepal, and Dhulikhel Municipality, Bill Mirna Foundation also we are collaborating with the one of the fecal management program also. That was Dhulikhel Municipality work together with the energy related, green energy related, zero mission, carbon mission, and still now Kathmandu University and the Education Ministry is MOU signing for the green energy and EV vehicle to promote and collaborating that area. This is my short introduction speech for our municipal activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those insights on the leadership and governance towards the Dulikhel municipality. That gives us a strong foundation to start with. As we continue, a quick reminder to all the attendees, please share your questions in the chat box at any time. We'll make sure to bring them during the Q&A session. And moving on to our next speaker, it's Bijal Brahmbhatt, Director, Mahila Housing Seva Trust. We are delighted to have you with us, ma'am, today. Your pioneering work with grassroots women collectives and your success in turning community-driven adaptation into city-level strategies make your perspective invaluable to this discussion, ma'am. So, generally, cities create ambitious climate plans, but informal settlements often remain invisible, even though they face the greatest risk. So, we will love to hear your thoughts on how community-driven strategies can influence city-level planning and why inclusion is key to resilience, ma'am. And along with that, one question we would like to delve into is as these solutions scale, how do we ensure that they remain inclusive and truly community driven? Yeah, and yes, ma'am, your stage is yours.
Uh, yeah, thank you, Varsha. Varsha, how much time do I have? Hello?
Hello.
How much time do I have? I'm sorry.
We don't like generally keep a
Yeah.
tab on time, ma'am. So like you're free to use the
Yeah. Yeah, so, we work with poor women in the informal sector, and it's a 30-year-old organization almost now. And so we have worked across cities in India where we have developed these collectives of poor women who also have technical knowledge. Our mandate has been to improve their habitats, but also at the same time, we realize how to make their habitats more climate resilient. Because we understood that the negative impacts of climate change are going to be enhanced by the kind of built environment you have in cities. And so, therefore, it was not a separate vertical of work for us, but it was merely building upon what we were doing. And in most of the cities that we started this work, we had been present for a long time, and we were working on issues of water, sanitation, of habitat development, on which we built the climate change issues. Earlier, we started working on the slow onset but potent disasters like heat or flooding or water scarcity, on which these women were subjected to. And we had these critical groups of community women across the cities. And I think when we started working, they couldn't understand what climate change was. Heat was a given for them. But what touched them the most was that they didn't want their children to lead the same kind of lives that they had led earlier. And when they understood that climate change was going to make their lives worse, they then, got ready to start action on climate change. So that's where we started developing their capacities to understand the various stresses and how it could be tackled. And later on, when there was a critical mass which started demanding work on heat or work around water scarcity or flooding of their settlements, which were the most vulnerable because they are usually low lying and would get flooded earlier, much earlier as compared to the city, or there was much more heat in their homes, not even outdoors, forget outdoors, their homes, because they had no ventilation. They had AC or tin sheet, which was, exacerbating the heat about 4 to 5 degrees more inside the house vis-a-vis what it was outside. So the movement then grew from bottom up, and then we started making demand to the city authorities to start, action on heat in the city. It would typically start with a workshop organized with the city authorities, and then the cities would then sort of agree to develop a heat action plan. Now, wherever Mahila Housing Trust would support the development of this heat action plan, most of these plans, or say even a climate action plan, most of these plans would be, usually when a think tank or a research institute does it, it's doing it from the land satellites or the census data. But we would sort of kind of insist on, our own women groups collecting the data, which we couldn't actually get from census or from the land satellites, the satellites from the top. Like, for example, vendors markets or existence of labor chalks where construction workers, send and collect give the finer data around slum housing and access to water, whether they had water connections or not. So I think, the heat action plan at the city level was made much more authentic because there was primary level data collection, which was then, sort of merged with the data from the satellites and top, so making it much finer and more authentic, and all the while also, educating our own women. Then, the cities would typically appoint heat officers, and in many cities, I am giving the example of heat, but heat being a major stress across India. But we have worked on climate action plans also. Most times in small to medium towns, and then the cities would appoint heat action officers, and the first thing that we would try and get done was to have early warning systems in these cities that would reach the last mile. So, mostly getting advertised by the city into the city newspapers, but for the most vulnerable groups, we would ensure that they get updates through WhatsApp, they get it through color coding. So, if people cannot read just by the color, they can make out what are the worst days or the better ones. So, how do you take it to the most vulnerable? And all those who did not have actually any access to mobiles also, which was 20% of our, women, we made sure it was written on community notice boards, handwritten. So women were trained to read it every day, some of the literate women, and write it down on the notice board with the color codes. And that ensured that, the last mile who did not even have access to a single mobile in their households would also be able to get it. And then we would, sort of start supporting and demonstrating by doing a lot of pilots on livelihoods, climate resilient livelihoods, climate resilient housing and workplaces, largely informal sector and, informal housing. But having said that, also giving a lot of inputs in the Housing for All mission, which is also providing formal housing. And we have done several of these demonstrations. So we did India's first cooling shelter with a net zero, India's first net zero cooling shelter, which has now been incorporated into the NDMA guidelines for cooling centers. We would do, urban forestry. Again, we found it's a different ballgame because, of course, in urban areas, you have to look at the developmental plans and the planning schemes and ensure that whatever you are sowing does not just get cut off when you are developing infrastructure. And pilots on livelihoods like having, climate resilient workplaces, providing credit for flood resistant housing, etc. So several of these initiatives have been taken up by us, and that is what actually demonstrates to the city on how action can be taken. Now, coming to the cities, what I have generally seen, because we started with Jodhpur, but we are now working across smaller cities, small and medium towns in India like Jaipur, Churu, Patan, Jalgaon, Amalner. So I think, three or four things which we need to clarify and which are not so very technical, but for the city is that how does climate change actually cross cuts all the areas, and that in the language of a layman, although most of them are engineers, I have found that that knowledge in a layman simple terms should be provided to the city authorities, because climate change cuts across so many sectors. For example, when we were doing it in Jodhpur, we mapped that there's an animal husbandry department which should be taking care of animals in the heat, in a mining department where the air pollution was rampant in Jodhpur, and it was increasing because of the heat and the suspended polluted particles. So anywhere from animal husbandry to the traditional health or infrastructure departments needed to be coordinated with. And so we had to do things like ensure which departments will have to take actions, introduce them to the heat nodal officer, and then ensure that there is a strong coordination happening for heat action, because or climate action for that matter, because it will cut across so many sectors in the city. And the way we actually worked was, I'm coming down to the nitty gritties, that we also supported the city. I mean, we raised funds ourselves, and the funds that came to us were all spent in showing examples and benefiting the informal sector and the women. But we supported the cities in also raising funds themselves. And so funding is a big issue, of course, in India. And with climate change or heat not being declared legally an issue, and therefore allocation of finances is yet to happen. And so the first step that we have done is we have started looking at city budgets and looking at actions and that they are already having and proposing in their budgets, and how do we bring in the climate lens. So for example, when you are setting up wash infrastructure or sewage treatment plants or stuff like that, how do you really bring in the element of reducing the emissions? You may have and some cities do have a social forestry program, but how do you do it so that you map the public lands, the private lands, you don't leave out the slums, and then ensure that all the trees planted are monitored, and we try and engage the poor women in fact monitoring all these and the plantation in and understanding with the city. I think some of the work that we have done is an example of how do you develop a urban wage employment program, which was been discussed heavily around the COVID time. And of course, it did never happen. So how do you come up with a wage employment program in the urban, which also bring in climate resilience, but also provides wages to the informal sector, is some of the things that we've already done. We found that some of the cities did not even have very clear budget allocations or budgets, which were estimated budgets, which were available on websites. So we have to take it from there and start bringing in the climate change lens without bringing and talking about significant additions to the budgets, because the kind of smaller cities and medium towns that we work in don't necessarily have the wherewithal, to produce some extra revenue which will help address these kind of issues, and that's a big gap. I think understanding about climate change and mitigation and adaptation in simple layman terms. I was recently at a workshop hosted by Vienna UA, and they were asking me what technology, what course curriculum should be set up to teach the cities, and I did not talk of any technical things. I said, you need to make them understand how it is cross-cutting, how having or not having infrastructure in urban areas is going to accentuate the problems of climate change, and that, how do you really coordinate? Because it's a cross-cutting issue. This is very difficult, multidisciplinary. It's difficult to understand. And how do you bring it up their agenda and get officers to coordinate are some of the key things that we need to build into the curriculum. I think Indians are strong in technologies, but such softer dimensions must be brought in. And how do you really include the poor? Because one of the things that our women invariably do is when we start developing this model with our women and the cities, we also ensure that these plans are revised year on year, actions are increased year on year to the extent possible. And then how do we also bring in other civil society organizations? For example, the Rotary clubs or the Lions Club, who are essentially middle class or elitist, and or probably other labor associations, mining associations, even auto rickshaw drivers. So while ours is a women-led model, the leaders are women, but they will work in a way that benefits the entire city. So I call it a poor women-led model of poor women-led city-level model of climate action. And I think over a period of time, as we go along, we try to build in these actions into the existing city-level budgets, and also try and support them to get funding from the relevant state schemes or the national level schemes. For example, in Amalner, where we are working, it's been declared it's got a ranking in the Maji Vasundhara program, which talks of social forestry. This is a city a city of 100,000 in Maharashtra. So at the end of the day, our model is something about the most vulnerable taking the lead. How do you really interact with the city and other citizens, whether they are technologists or private sector or civil society? And and then how can we build in elements of sustainability by having a plan that is year on year developed and read out between the citizens and the city, and our own community action group actually ensuring that there is an element of sustainability, because we do believe that climate change is it's a problem that unless and until tackled at the systemic level, because there is an ecosystem in the city, and only doing the poor housing or the poor habitat will not decrease the heat, because the entire area has to be worked upon. So that's the approach. And that's an approach where poor women take lead and probably try and bring in sustainability over a period of time. So that you keep revisiting it. And the sustainability is not only about materials or about the demonstrations, but for us, it is also about how we inculcate and integrate it into the city administration over a period of time, so that it doesn't disappear. Yeah, that's our work around climate change and cities and poor.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for showing how women's collectives can lead climate action not just by generating crucial on-ground data, but by translating complex climate concepts into everyday language that communities can understand and act on. It also brings up a bigger question for all of us: say, how do we ensure participation goes beyond projects and becomes part of city systems? Thank you so much for sharing your insights on this, ma'am. And joining us now is our next speaker is Elisa Sutanudjaja, Executive Director and Co-founder, Rujak Center for Urban Studies, whose work has transformed how cities think about participatory planning in Indonesia. Ma'am, many cities have strong climate plans on paper, but they often fail because communities are left out of process. We would love to hear your perspectives on how participation can strengthen climate action and what it takes to make it meaningful and not tokenistic. And linked to that, another question we would also like to explore is how can these participatory approaches move beyond isolated pilots to become mainstream in cities' governance? The stage is yours, ma'am.
Okay. Again, thank you for the invitation. So, and I'm happy to be one of the participants from Indonesia to share our experience to other countries. In this case, I assume that mostly coming from the South Asian. I think we have to discuss and collaborate more. And there's also a way to build and also have this solidarity among countries. So I'm very happy to share today about how participatory approach in urban climate planning can move beyond isolated pilots. So my reflection is coming from our work at Rujak Center for Urban Studies. So this is based in Indonesia. We are a think tank and focusing on the urban and regional issues. So, and then particularly on the informal settlement. So for your information, kampung in this one is called informal settlement. So the kampung is from our local language. And sorry. Okay. So my voice is clear, right? Okay. So yeah. So yeah, it's built particularly from the idea of how informal settlement and low-income public housing can also taking charge in this climate adaptation planning. So I will frame this through the issues of social legitimacy. How can vulnerable communities become a genuine co-producer of climate action? And I will illustrate this at the local, national, and regional level. So I think the challenge is pretty much the same like in India. So in Indonesia, especially, and also Indonesian cities, government don't necessarily have ambitious climate plans. We now even criticize our second NDC as a non-ambitious plan. And at the same time, the government also produced too many plans and often fragmented, overlapping, and disconnected from implementation. So the bigger problem of these plans are made, usually the public participation is usually absent or symbolic. For example, our Indonesia National Cooling Action Plan, none of the civil society in Indonesia know about this plan, even though it seems big, but it's mostly developed together with industry, but never really with civil society. And then even though the cooling is matter of survival for the urban poor, but if you read the plan, is mostly about the industrial sector. Of course, the result in plans that look on neat on paper, but lack legitimacy, and sometimes they even create maladaptation. So the challenge we face is twofold. How do we ensure participation is genuine, and how do we make it stick in implementation and not just a planning document? So I will be addressing the issue about urban heat. I mean, we can also addressing issues about, for example, sea level rising or about land subsidence and etc. But I think since Indonesia now is currently having this very extreme heat, and so I think it's more and also it's appropriate to talk to this event because I also understand that South Asia also facing this challenge since long time ago, and we actually in Indonesia have to learn from your practice and also
narrator window
adaptation.
Narrate, enter, exiting narrator.
So we choose urban heat as our entry point for adaptation. First, because it is systemically overlooked by the government, either in the national level or in the local level. And most policies still focus on flooding or on the coastal land subsidence. And secondly, the people who mostly affected are coming from informal workers or residents of informal settlement. So they face unsafe working condition and poor housing, and also it make a double burden. So third, the dominant response usually is air conditioning. So as shown in the earlier plan, from the Indonesia National Cooling Action Plan, which is expensive, exclusionary, and of course maladaptive for the urban poor. And the data actually is quite striking. In Jakarta, the number of days above 35 degrees jumped from 28 Celsius in 1990s to 28 incidents in 1990s to 167 in within the past decades, which is the steepest increase among the major world capitals. So if you compare with other major capitals, Jakarta actually is #1 in terms of the increase. And in October to 2030 alone, we experienced 30 consecutive days above 35 degrees, more than the total of the entire first decade of the data set that we have. So, and also at the same time, in 2070, 20% of our population will be exposed to the extreme heat, which is all of them will be the extremely vulnerable population. And of course, until today, even in the local government, we don't really have, like heat action plan or the one that already probably very natural that you have in India. So none of Indonesian cities have that heat action plan. So this is our principle in order to make sure the participation that coming from the local until the national level. So one, we have for us is important that participation have to begin with justice. So that's in order to frame the just transition. So climate adaptation must protect housing rights, livelihoods, and dignity, and not undermine them. So this is one example that we have in Kampung Marlina. One of the projects that we have is that conducted in 2021, which is an adaptation in 10 row houses in the dense population. The government initially leaned toward forced eviction, but then we also use this opportunity, to improve the settlements, and the residents choose passive design improvement, which is using ventilation, shading, and better materials, and finance through revolving fund managed by a cooperative. Housing cooperative that's set up by the residents. So some of the money is coming from ACHR, Asian Coalition for Housing Rights, and now we continue with housing number 11, 12, and so on. So at the same time, this enable people remain in place, reduce heat stress, and also strengthen their own institution. Then this is what we frame as a just transition looks like in the community scale. So a second principle is we acknowledge differentiated burdens. We also know that climate burdens are not evenly shared. Women, informal workers, renters, elderly residents, and people with disability are among the most exposed. So that's why participation has to be designed to include them from the start. So for example, in Kampung Marlina and Kampung Kalijawi, also our network, women groups led the process. Managing cooperative fund, organizing meetings, and also making decisions. So this was also possible because participation was structured around their needs, meetings at a safe time. So we follow their schedule, and facilitation also adapted for inclusivity and space for care responsibility. So genuine participation only happens when we address these differentiated burdens directly. So another thing is we try our best to avoid maladaptation. Participation is also a safeguard against maladaptation. Too often, government propose solutions that increase vulnerability. Once we also, we have an experience working together with the biggest aircon producer from Japan. We thought that we can have a discussion about the combination between passive and active cooling, for example. But at the end of the day, they really push into like active cooling. And also the same with government. So they tend to, for example, when they design public housing, they also leave a room for the residents to install the aircon without necessarily understanding that the possibility of having the passive cooling. And of course, if we just go directly to the active cooling, it should usually burden the economic income for the residents. So, so in Kampung Marlina, for example, residents, after they calculate their expenses, their monthly expenses, they realize that most of their income either going to the water because it feels so hot, so they have to taking shower for many times, or going to the electricity. So that's why residents explicitly say that we don't want to install aircon. So how can we improve our houses without necessarily break our piggy bank or something? So so at the end of the day, we together choose the passive cooling strategy that reduce the indoor temperature without locking in high energy use. So in Kampung Muka, so there's another kampung that we are working now in different projects. So we invite communities to measure temperature and humidity as an entry for meaningful participation. So this is the lesson. Without participation, maladaptation is almost inevitable. So with participation, communities can shape adaptive measures that are just and also durable. So another principle that we come out with is a collaboration across scales. So first, we on the local level, we already have this Kampung Marlina, the first project together with ACHR back into 2021, as kind of like the good example that we showcase to the national government to showcase that even the low-income community, informal settlement, and also informal workers managed to have this kind of project using their own money and also revolving fund. So at the national level, through the passive cooling collaborative program with also with ACHR, it also become a national project. So together with Rujak and Arkom, that's another organization in different cities. So we also brought this community housing into national debates, which is like this kind of timeline. So we have the prototyping that we already have, then we have a toolkit, and we hope that we can jointly to make it together with government, and then we hope that this kind of knowledge become a knowledge not only between communities but also with the government as well. And in the regional level, we now also working together with within the ASEAN level. We have this collaboration between Indonesia and Malaysia. From Indonesia, we have 3 organizations, and from Malaysia, we have university, national university based in Kuala Lumpur to do core research and knowledge transfer. So hopefully we can have this more like collaboration across countries as well. So this, at the same time, we believe that this problem is not only in Indonesian cities, but also in other places. So we can learn a lot from comparing through this kind of site studies, and also from the community adaptation that happening in 4 different cities. So what is the mechanism for that make participation genuine? Through our previous advocacy, we managed to make sure that that Jakarta government have already institutionalized the community action planning through Gubernatorial Act 90 in 2018. So this make community-led planning already part of the formal system. Another thing, we have this cooperative within our network, within our urban poor network. So they set up a cooperative in many of the kampung, many of the informal settlement set up their own cooperative back in 2018. Now we have at least 25 cooperative in the informal settlements. So this cooperative manage both design and also money, and at the same time construction, and at the same time giving the residents real decision making power. And third, residents also part of this research, so we call it core research and citizen science. They also measuring, like I said, measuring the heat and housing condition themselves. They draw the design themselves together with us and creating knowledge that we hope that government will recognize. And finally, safeguard also matter. So we also make sure the confidentiality and also right to withdraw if you suddenly don't want to be part of the program. So it's not only about the attendance. So, and then from pilots to mainstream, so how do we make sure that this mechanism don't remain pilots? So by embedding them in policy, finance, and planning standard. So we have, I don't know how many meetings with government, usually from national government, with national government, because they're the one who making standards. And usually local government will be following that. But we also try to incorporate local government also from the start, hoping that they could help us financing some of the program as well. Then we also see that the regional exchange is also provide soft diplomacy from the top, because Indonesia and Malaysia is part of this ASEAN thing. And they currently now is quite active in the issues of the climate policy as well. And then mainstreaming happens when participation is no longer optional, when regulation require it, budgets support it, and hopefully the standard reference it. That's why we always try to target our advocacy to the national government who got the money, who got the funding, who make the standard, and also who make the guideline, and also who make the development planning. So what is the role of civil society? Civil society plays as a bridging role. We connect communities and government, provide technical skill, and ensure accountability. Just as important, we translate community stories into language and policy. So in Jakarta, for example, alliance like JRMK and UPC. So JRMK is a grassroots urban poor network, and UPC is an urban poor consortium, and Reject is us. We have a shift housing rights agenda. So in 2024, last year, we won a gold medal in World Habitat Awards for advancing the housing rights in opposing the forced eviction. So this coalition also proved that civil society can amplify community voice into national and even regional influence. So without this bridge, we afraid that pilots remain local experiments. So with it, they become a part of the systemic change. So here are some of the key takeaways that that we learned from this process. So there are 4 principles where the genuine participation are. One is just transition, which is adaptation that protect homes, livelihoods, and dignity. And the second one is differentiated burden. We recognize the women, informal workers, elderly, displaced face of the one that have heaviest risk. And we avoid maladaptation. Participation acts as a safeguard, helping communities reject harmful solution, and then collaboration across scale, which is coming from the local pilots, become a national advocacy, and then become the regional exchange, and etc. So ensuring that participation does not remain isolated. So, and underneath those principles, we already have this mechanism. This is a community action planning, and also we we also focus on the housing cooperative and do a co-research together with the communities and to ensure the GETSI facilitation. So the message that I want to leave with you today is again, participation is never a symbolic. It is a resilience itself. It's a foundation of the resiliency. So without it, climate action risks deepening inequality. And with it, we build legitimacy, justice, and durable change. And then it could start from very small units, which is the informal settlement in Kampung, but at the same time, we can lead it to regional change. Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for emphasizing that participation is not just symbolic but a foundation of resilience, and also about genuine participation isn't just about inclusion, it begins with justice. You've also highlighted why legitimacy and implementation matters for making participation real as well. So thank you for that. And building on that, let's now turn to another crucial driver of justice and accountability, that's advocacy. There's a question where how can public campaigns and citizen movements push cities from ambitions to real action. To explore more about this, I invite our next speaker, Avinash Chanchal, Deputy Program Director, Greenpeace South Asia, who brings extensive experience in climate advocacy and campaigns that push for stronger climate action. So, across Asia, we see cities making ambitious climate pledges, but progress is often slow because of weak accountability. We'd love to hear your views on how advocacy can turn these commitments into action and the role citizen movements can play in holding city systems accountable. And in addition to that, a question we'd like to bring into this discussion again is what immediate steps should cities prioritize in the next 5 years to close this gap between ambition and implementation? So the floor is yours now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Varsha, and thank you, everyone. So I would talk about our recent work which we did during heat wave in Delhi, and through that I will try to explain how we are approaching and what needs to be happen in our cities. As we all know, and the previous speakers also pointed out how the most vulnerable communities, especially the low-income groups and the worker groups and workers who are working in informal sector, are more vulnerable to any kind of extreme weather events or any other climate impacts such as air pollution and so on. But unfortunately, we also know at the same time that these groups and the impact on these groups are almost invisible from not only from our mainstream narrative, from media stories or from the policies. But in general, also society is not talking or not aware about these impacts on our informal workers and the people who are living in informal settlements and so on. So one of the thing which we did as part of our work is to ensure that we are making that impact visible, and hence we started working with the worker groups. We engaged different kind of informal worker groups like construction workers, street vendor unions, waste pickers, domestic help workers, and so on, to understand that how they are experiencing heat or other climate impacts. So that's how we started our campaign. But at the same time, we also realized that when we talk about climate impacts, often these communities which we are talking about is seen as a victim of these climate impacts, and especially in global narrative also, like there are media stories which covers these extreme weather events, but portraying the community as a victim, as a survivor of it. While it's true that they are facing a lot of impact, but at the same time, the resilient part of this story no one talks about. So we said that we will change the narrative, and we will see how communities are, because they are already adopting a lot of climate impacts, and they are coming up with a lot of local solutions which we often ignore, like especially in policy space we don't talk about it. And at the same time, we also while working with them, we also realize that there is a unsaid solidarity is there among workers, when whether it's heat or whether it's some other climate impacts like the flash floods and others. The community comes together and they work together. So we need to bring we wanted to bring that story. So one of the thing which we did is that I started talking about, you can see Savitri and Radha ji's poster here. So this is a very normal story. Like we know that in our cities, people set up these piaus, the drinking spaces in their locality, around their shops and all. So, but at the same time, we also realize that this whole culture of tradition of setting up piaus are disappearing. So how we can, like, and at the same time, the ordinary people, so-called ordinary people who are like setting up these piaus, no one is talking about them. No one is celebrating these a small, so-called small contribution of these ordinary people. And we realized that this has a very extraordinary stories, because if you see generally in a middle class setup, we don't set up those PIAs. It's the community who do this. So we said we will celebrate their story, and this is also coming from why I'm talking about this is also because in the panel I was asked to also talk about the changing narrative, the city narrative. So we identified almost more than 50 places where the communities said that they will set up the drinking centers, hydration centers, and we install the big cutouts in those areas where they set up the drinking place. What happened after this is that the lot of people from the community came forward saying that I would like to set up the such drinking space in my area. And they also started committing that someone was saying that, okay, I will ensure that the water is, we are filling the water. So that's the one thing. And just to remind you that these community members, these community leaders are mostly remains invisible in their spaces, especially if they are women and coming from a low income groups. So it's kind of made their stories visible in the society. The other thing which we did is that we did a call, like, so generally from last few years, IMD has become much better with their early warning system, right? But unfortunately, whenever we talk to the community members and all, they feel like they never got those informations. But at the same time, when we talk to the IMD, they said that they want to reach out to the workers and other groups, but and they have a lot of programs to do that, but they are not able to do that. So what we did as part of our Delhi Rising campaign is that we brought both together. So the Indian Meteorological Department and informal worker unions came together, and they started. The IMD has started giving heat alerts, customizing to the workers and customizing to the communities in Hindi and in a very simple format. If you can see, there is in this picture that one street vendor has installed this, and it's very simple, easy to understand. Alert is there, and it also gives the precautions, what kind of precautions if the temperature increase, if the heat wave is more than if the temperature is more than 40 degree, what you need to do, kind of information is there. So the worker groups started displaying this across markets in Delhi. So this is another story, like this is another example of how the workers are coming together and taking action, right? Like when we talk to the street vendors about hydration points and or about these heat alerts and all, they said like, okay, they came up with the idea of VSR. So they said like there is a CSR which is not working for them, so they will do VSR, means vendor social responsibility. And with that spirit, they have started taking action on against heat. And it's not like just they were doing just for themselves. So a street vendor, if they are setting up the hydration points, or if they are providing the information to about the heat alerts, that means it's reaching to the no, the consumers also, the middle class consumers as well. So it's kind of like became a positive action which we managed to start in Delhi. And then at the same time, we also did a lot of, we started doing a people-led evidence. So we came up with the public audit methodology, and where we did the audit of water ATMs, water accessibility of informal settlements. We went to, during heat, we went to more than 30 health facilities and did a rapid audit of, based on the heat action plans recommendations, we did the audit of those health facilities. We did a audit of parks. We also used thermal camera to highlight how women in kitchen, especially the women who are living in informal settlements, how they experience heat very differently. And almost when we capture the temperature using thermal camera, we found out that almost 5 to 6 or 7 degrees Celsius more they were exposed to the temperature. So and when we were doing all these audits and all, it was done by the volunteers, it was done by the community members. So it was not that we had some research groups who or researchers who did this audit, or who have done these research, but it was the community members who came forward and they did these audits. At the same time, when we were talking to the street vendors, one of the thing we also came is that how the middle class groups are opposing them, and it's a very historical thing. And almost in all cities, the middle class always that's the perception is there, that the middle class doesn't like the street vendors. Many cases against street vendors are filed by these middle class groups, RWAs, and so on. So what we did is we reached out to the middle class groups, especially the RWAs in Delhi, and we mobilized them and we collected clothes from them, the used clothes, and that clothes we converted into the canopy, and this we installed in Delhi's street markets. So kind of we also try to build the solidarity between middle class and street vendors. So why I'm telling these stories, that although if you ask me, like as a campaigning organization, our campaign demand was very clear, that we wanted to have a notified heat wave as a national disaster and more funding for national disaster, because thanks to SEBA and others, like there were in our cities, we have a great document of heat action plans, but unfortunately it lacks the adequate funding. Unfortunately, it lacks the legal binding and accountability and so on. So obviously, as a campaign organization, our focus was more to that, but at the same time, we realized that we just can't ask for the policy demands, but at the same time, we have to bring the communities' stories, and we have to change the narrative how the media is reporting about these climate impacts. Maybe can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so you can see in the pictures, we were able to mobilize the local policymakers, the communities, and these hydration points became a celebration. Like people used to come there, sing and do bhajan, and all those volunteers came together. They did a series of paintings and things like that. So you can see in the pictures. Yeah, next slide. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so the learning from this was that we need to go beyond, as I was saying, that we need to go beyond policy demand. Obviously, we need a policy, and at least in heat wave or in many other climate impacts, we have a good climate action policies in many cities, but unfortunately, it's reduced to just becoming a guiding document, and there's no concrete things are coming from those policies, because it doesn't have adequate funding mechanism, it doesn't have a legal binding. So we really need to fix that gap. And at the same time, we also realize that a lot of and thanks to SEBA and other groups, seeds and others, who has shown a great example of pilot projects. But at the same time, we felt like we need to go, like the cities, especially the government, needs to go beyond these pilot projects, because the pilot solutions are already available. It's just that they need to have a political will to implement in a larger scale. We need to bring, as I said, like we need to bring the communities who are living in the cities together, and and all this policy making needs to go beyond just like consultation with the roundtable discussions among the civil society groups or the expert groups or the urban planners and so on. It really needs to bring the community on the table, which is not happening, unfortunately. And we need to inform the community so that they can come together and act, because the information is also not reaching. Like we last year we were doing a report called Heat Havoc, which was a report of how heat is impacting the street vendors, and what we realized that simply because they don't have any information, a lot of small things which could be easily done as a precautions to heat, people are not doing it. So it's really critical that we and thanks to IMD that came together, like they agreed with to come together and started this as a pilot project. I'm hoping that next year we will do in more cities this kind of initiatives. But we really need to inform our communities so that they can come together and act. Then, as I said, there is no so right now different departments are coordinating heat action plans, right? At least there are reports which lay out how many departments are involved in it, and there are like more than 15-16 departments are also there in the ministry and other and the state government, between central government and the city authorities. So I feel like we really need to have one accountable system, one department or one nodal officer or one nodal whatever, like one nodal vertical, which can ensure that all these climate action or heat action plans are getting implemented on ground. The other thing is also, like, so as part of our campaign, we are also saying that right now, if the government is not giving the money, like the communities are paying for it, right? For the extreme weather events, whether it's a heat wave and all, like they're paying. We saw in different reports. We also did a report in our heat havoc report. We also found out that how the household expenditure has increased during heat. The people who earns 10 to 15,000 rupees, they have to spend almost 2,000 rupees on just to get drinking water. So the communities and people are already paying a price for it. But at the same time, the accountability of the real culprit, I would say here, is no one talking about. So we say that okay, heat wave is there, and people link it with the climate change, but the discussion stops there. No one is linking heat wave, how, like, who is causing this climate change. And for me, that's a very critical question we need to ask. Like, if 70% of our extreme weather events are happening because of the burning greenhouse gas emissions, and because of the burning fossil fuel, oil, gas, and coal, we really need to make these fossil fuel corporations accountable. So as part of our campaign, we also launched Polluters Pay Pact, where these worker groups came together and they signed the Polluters Pay Pact, demanding these big fossil fuel corporations to pay for the damage they already caused. So I feel like the government also, although the Indian government talks a lot about loss and damage on international platforms, I feel like they also need to talk about the accountability of fossil fuel companies and in the line of loss and damage, they also need to make the companies pay. So yeah, this is a very short presentation, but I wanted to talk about our Daily Rising campaign, because I feel like to this discussion, maybe this is the more apt uh, uh, yeah, talk I can give. So this is it from my side. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for on bringing such an important perspective to this discussion. Turning the lens from vulnerability to hope and showing how collective action can make people champions rather than victims is actually a game-changing perspective. It also reminds us that climate action is not just about policy; it's about people changing, leading the change together. Thank you so much for sharing your insights in this. With that thought, let's move to our final speaker. Sheikh Ataya Rabbi, Assistant Manager, Research and Advocacy, CPRD Bangladesh, who works extensively on strengthening governance and building capacity for smaller and vulnerable cities. Sir, Many of these cities face systemic barriers, say limited finance, lack of technical expertise, and minimal institutional support. So, we'd love to hear your insights on how these cities are navigating these challenges and what role partnerships and networks can play in bridging the gaps. And building on that, one more question we'd like to explore is how can these efforts align local realities with national and global climate targets? The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Varsha. Thank you for giving me the floor. In fact, we are a research-based organization in Bangladesh. We collect ground evidences of climate change impacts. Our research, one of our research focus is climate change impacts and adaptation options in the urban areas of the country. So before addressing the questions you have just placed, I would like to share some contextual evidences of climate change impacts and adaptation options in Bangladesh. In fact, I have so many tabs opened. So
no issue. Take your time, do it. But you have PowerPoint?
yes, I have a PowerPoint presentation
Have
here.
you given it to Chitrakshi? She could open it.
No. I haven't provided her with that.
Chitrakshi, you don't have it?
No, sir.
Okay.
I have found it.
Don't relax, try.
Sir, I have put my email ID. If you want to send me, I'll present it for you.
No, I have already got into that.
Okay.
Is it visible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me directly get into the urbanization section of Bangladesh. So, Bangladesh is one of the most climate vulnerable countries of the world, which was ranked 13th in terms of long-term climate change impacts from 2000 to 2019. Over this time, Bangladesh faced an annual loss and damage amounting around 0.4% of our GDP, and being located at a very critical geographical location in the confluence of the one of the major river basin system, which is Ganges, Meghna, and Brahmaputra river basin system. Bangladesh is highly prone to climate-induced disasters like flood, cyclones, riverbank erosion, and so many. The urban system of Bangladesh has at least one secondary city beyond the administrative unit, and and we have 490 upajilas, which is sub-districts, which are also urban areas. And we have also 329 municipalities, which are the lowest urban electoral units. So this is the composition of our urban system. And if we look into our pace of urbanization, we find that around 39% of the population of Bangladesh lived in urban areas in 2021. It is estimated by World Bank, and we have currently 516 urban centers across the country, and all of which face unplanned growth and without any proper drainage system. And about 28% of the households live in permanent structures, and 55% of the urban population lived in slums in Bangladesh. It is data from 2022. So this is a scenario of our urban system in our country, and it indicates that the urban informal settlements or slums dominate the urban housing. In Bangladesh, the climate change vulnerability of cities are not uniform. The vulnerabilities vary across the cities and areas located in different parts of the country. The climate-induced hazards that have been affecting the urban life include flood, all sorts of flood, in fact, pluvial floods, river floods, tidal inundation, flash floods. Besides floods, we have been suffering from heat stress, tropical cyclones, storm surges, tidal inundation, as I have already mentioned. In the coastal area, we have salinity intrusion problem, waterlogging. Waterlogging is also a problem in all other cities as well in recent times. Besides, we have been suffering a drought, especially the northern part of the country. The south central part of the country has been suffering with riverbank erosion, and lightning is also growing concern for the city people in this country. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
All right. Besides, erratic rainfall and landslides have also been impacting the urban population in the country. So these climate-induced hazards have been causing a great havoc in the urban areas in the form of economic and non-economic losses and damages. Economic loss and damages include loss and damage to household staffs, livestock, fish, employment, etc. And there is also a vast range of non-economic losses and damages, including loss of life, health issues such as heat strokes, water and vector-borne diseases, and so many. Besides, there are insecurities of water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. These climate-induced hazards have also been causing forced migration from different parts of the country, especially the coastal areas. The people migrating from different parts and relocating to the cities have also been facing identity crisis, cultural loss in the form of loss of their cultural activities, festivals, and so forth. Besides, the urban climate migrants have also been suffering from engaging their children into laborious activities. They also choose to put their children to drop out from their schools as a means to reduce the as a means to increase their household income, and many of them also resort to child marriage as a means of risk transfer. I mean, child marriage of their female children, especially. Besides, there is a significant lack of access to basic amenities like water, sanitation, hygiene, as I already said, and water collection often leads to communal conflicts between the families. Often, the people affected by climate change in the urban areas have to migrate to different places for their employment, which often causes their familial tie to be broken. Also, there are some sorts of gender-based violences suffered by the urban people, especially who belong to the low and lower middle class, and especially the climate migrants. They, since they don't have a strong root in the urban areas, they often are treated as outsiders, and their female children, especially the adolescent girls and women, are often subject to sexual harassment and other types of gender-based violences. Many of the climate migrants relocating to the urban centers are most of those urban climate migrants are involved with informal types of activities such as rickshaw pulling, van pulling, mud cutting, etc., which are informal in nature and are characterized by economic uncertainty. So these are some sorts of non-economic losses and damages suffered by the people in the urban centers, which are driven by climate-induced causes. Beyond the climate change causes, there are also non-climate factors that often compound the impact scenario. These include unplanned urbanization, poor drainage facility, poor governance in the urban area, high population density, centralized economy. As you know, this is a reality in the Southeast Asian, South Asian nations. The economy is much centralized, and in Bangladesh, the urban areas or urban bodies are also lacking inter-body coordination between among the ministries and departments. Besides the fragile socioeconomic condition of the people living in the urban areas, especially the people in the urban slums are very fragile, which is also another cause of exacerbating the impacts of climate change. Beyond these, there are some tendencies of the influential people to encroach the water bodies and publicly owned lands. All these counteract with each other to make a very complex scenario in the urban areas, complicating the climate change impacts. So let me bring some cases from the ground on the evidences of climate change impacts faced by the people in the urban areas. This story has been brought from south central district of the country, which is Barishal. In fact, we conducted ground research in an urban slum named Bangabandhu Colony, which is located in Barishal City Corporation. And this slum is very close to the Kirtankola River, and it is also located at the heart of the Barishal City Corporation. So this is a story about a climate migrant living in that slum. His name is Altaf Hauladar. He relocated from his ancestral place back in 2002. I mean, almost 23 years ago. In his ancestral place, he was affected by salinity intrusion. Their agricultural lands got salinized, and he had to migrate from there in search of employment. Initially, he migrated to another place of Barishal City Corporation, which is called Baptist Mission Road. There, he stayed for 2 years, and he had to leave that place because of recurrent waterlogging, and the house rent in that area was also increasing. So he had to relocate from that area to the city of Dhaka. In Dhaka, he used to cut mud, pull rickshaw, but he could not survive there for long. Just over 1 year, he could stay there, and his rickshaw got hijacked, and he was the only earning member of his family, and he could not he could not shoulder the family burdens anymore. So he had to come back to Borishal again, this time to Bangabandhu colony. This is a place, this is an urban slum, as I already mentioned, and its area is around 250 square meters only. Sorry, it's around 11,000 square meters, which is 270 acres. So almost 1,730 families live in that slum, which is a very congested slum. And as the slum is located near the Kirtan-Kula River, tidal surges and pluvial floods are very common phenomena in that slum. And Altaf Howlader used to be an informal worker here as well, but he could not get rid of the family, the economic burden of the family.
You will have to kind of move fast, because we are already.
All right. So this is the scenario of the crisis faced by the people in the urban slums of the in the Borishal city, and their crises include water scarcity, sanitation crisis, and identity crisis, and also the recurrent impacts of flood and waterlogging. This is another case of climate change impacts in an urban slum of Dhaka city. Here, heat stress, illegal encroachment, canal blockages, waterlogging, outbreaks of water and vector-borne diseases, and gendered vulnerabilities and health impacts are very common phenomena. You can see this is the source of their drinking water. This is supplied by the city corporation, and there are more than 50 families relying on this water source, and this is their latrine. There are only 3 sanitary latrines for the entire community of around 60 families. And this is a case from a very recent flood incident occurred in a coastal area of the country. This is Feni, Noakhali, and other districts. This the cause of the flood was the combined impact of upstream river flows, overflow of the upstream rivers, and also very short spell of very heavy rainfall, and it led to more than 1 million people affected, and they got displaced. Their shelters got damaged, and there are so many health issues. The urban policy landscape in Bangladesh is quite rich, but there is a lack of implementation and a lack of means of implementation, which have been hindering the realization of the outcome that is expected. So Bangladesh is often called the global capital of adaptation. In the urban areas, the adaptation actions have been implemented by government, CSOs, NGOs, and also by the urban residents. These include water resource management actions such as establishing embankments, dams, sluice gate management, flood protection embankments, excavation and re-excavation of canals and water bodies, establishment and improvement of drainage facilities, housing clusters, rooftop gardens, and many other nature-based solutions. Besides, some NGOs and CSOs have also established some wash facilities for the people living in the urban areas of the country. There are also activities such as the capacity building on income generating activities, since the urban people, especially the belonging to the lower economic class, rely on the informal job opportunities, which often expose them to income uncertainties. So for them, alternative livelihood opportunities and skill development on those are very crucial. This is a case, an example of a secondary city development which has been implemented in a coastal city named Mongla. In fact, many people every year have to migrate or get displaced from those areas who relocate to the big cities like Dhaka, Chattogram, and others. But this has been a very noteworthy initiative implemented by government, which established an economic zone beside a deep sea port, which led to creation of a massive employment opportunities for the people who otherwise had to relocate to the big cities. So this is one example which can be implemented in other areas to reduce the pressure of the climate migrants to the big cities. Rather, we can establish these types of small towns or secondary cities to absorb those exodus of the migrants. This is a nature-based solution based on a rainwater harvesting system. It is also located in a coastal city, Mongla. It is in Bagherhat district. It is basically water treatment facility. You can see two ponds here, which preserve rainwater directly coming from the sky, and it also receives water from the nearby river, which is Poshu River and Mongla River, when the water is not that much saline. So during the season when the salinity is low, the pond receives water from those rivers, and during the rainy season, the rainwater is harvested and stored in these ponds, making the water less saline. And this is an overhead tank which pumps which lift these the water from these ponds and stores this, and then sends the water to a treatment plant before distributing to the household level. So this is a very fantastic example of nature-based solution for addressing the water crisis in the coastal cities. There are so many sources of funds that have been used for implementing these adaptation interventions. We have national budget, which is channeled through 25 ministries. We have established a national climate change fund, which is Bangladesh Climate Change Trust Fund, which every year implements a number of climate interventions, including adaptation actions implemented under the thematic areas of our Bangladesh climate change strategy and action plan. Besides, there are bilateral and multilateral development funds, such as funds from Asian Development Bank and AFD. We also receive funds from GCF and Least Developed Countries Fund, Adaptation Funds, and other funding opportunities under the UNFCCC. And there are also NGO, CSO, and private sector interventions which have been being implemented in these cities in the form of rainwater harvesting, building sanitation facilities, building there are also capacity building initiatives by the NGOs, CSOs, and private sectors. So our small cities, as Varsha asked me, small cities have so many problems, especially in the form of lack of capacities, lack of finances, and so many, and also systematic barriers. To address those, there are some roles which the CSOs and other stakeholders can play. We can think of, since climate finance is a great issue for implementing these interventions at the small cities, we can think of innovative sources of financing, such as blended finance and green financing. Besides the government, should ensure basic amenities and skill development in these areas where the NGOs and civil society stakeholders can act as partners. The interministerial and interbody coordination within the government should be more strengthened. And for addressing the internal migration, the CSOs have a great role to play in the form of advocating for inclusive policies for climate migrants, youth, children. And in fact, we need to develop a transformative spatial planning to ensure a holistic plan for climate migration to reduce the pressure on the smaller cities, on the bigger cities, and make a balance between the small and big cities in receiving the climate migrants from the rural areas. We have found some sort of research and data gaps which will be hindering the optimum results. So civil societies, research organizations, and universities have a stake to play in mitigating the research and data gaps to ensure the best policies and plans are in place. And we know Bangladesh and many other Asian countries are developing their national mechanism on loss and damage, where we can integrate the demands and issues of the small cities to be mainstreamed with the national and international climate actions. We also know that in the upcoming COP30, the Conference of the Parties will finalize 100 indicators for global goal on adaptation, and we can for now we can shift our focus to the smaller cities to develop their own adaptation plans, climate initiatives, climate demands in the light of those indicators of global adaptation, so that we can go for planning at the local level, mainstream that with our national plans, and relate our demands and actions with the global priorities. So that's all from my side. I was also looking forward to present a blended microfinance model which we developed and experimented in a northern area of the country. Maybe some time in the future we will be able to do that. Thank you for allowing me the time, and thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those very practical suggestions highlighting the role of CSOs in mobilizing finance and skills, and importantly about the interministerial coordination, and also for shedding light on how these structural realities shape the lives of urban dwellers in Bangladesh, and more about the case study that you shared on the adaptive success towards the climate migrants. These are very critical levers for enabling smaller cities and vulnerable communities to not just plan but actually implement climate actions effectively. And we would love to learn more about your operation of the model next time if we have time here. That brings us to the close of an incredibly rich discussion where we move from leadership and grassroots actions to participation, advocacy, and governance systems that underpin climate resilience. So before we close, we'll take a few questions from the attendees. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to share them in the chat box now. I think there's a question for Sheikh. Elisa ma'am is asking if it's possible to have the presentation file of yours. If you can also share it with Chitrakshi so that we can share it to the panelists if they are interested in getting to know it.
Noor Saab, will it be possible to have your slides, because they're very interesting, and I'm sure lots of people will be very interested in seeing them. Can you make them available?
Sure. I'll share that with you or Varsha very
Yeah, I
shortly.
think just send it to INHAF, and I think we will put it, I think, on public domain and share it with you.
All right.
You know. I have a message from Avinash Chanchal. He had to leave, and he has left, but others are still there. So, I think, is there any other question, Varsha? Otherwise, I think, we could wind up, because we already about 20 minutes beyond our time limit.
Yes, sir. No, sir. There's no questions.
Okay, then I think let's wind up. That's been very. What is interesting this time is this, that we had three major presentation, one from Indonesia, one from Nepal, and one from Bangladesh. I think it was terrific. All of them were very highly educative, and I'm very glad that we got to hear them. And I don't think there is time or even need to kind of summarize this. The recording of this event will be in public platform in the next 24 hours, and therefore anyone who wants to access can access it. And therefore, I think let me kind of close this with thanking all the panelists, including Bijal Ban. Bijal Ban, thank you very much. Elisa, thank you very much. You time and again spoke about ACHR. I'm very much part of ACHR for 30 years, and working with them very clear, very well. Avinash, thank you very much, and I miss your presentation a bit, because I had some trouble with my system. Sheikh Noor, you took lots of time and made a very interesting presentation. And Ashok Kumarji, I know you laughed long time ago, but thank you very much. And of course, Varsha, thank you very much again. I don't know what was wrong with your system, but we couldn't see you. But it was terrific, to have come in at the last moment and help moderating this whole session. So thank you very much. We'll be back again next week, which is the fourth webinar of the series, and we are very grateful to all those who are present, and very grateful to all who made presentations. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noor Bhai. Thank you. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Where are you? Are you part of? Are you a researcher or with the government?
Yes. I am a researcher by profession. I work for Center for Participatory Research and Development.
Okay.
CPRD.
Okay. Ashok Saab, are you still there? Are you there? It doesn't seem to be there. Okay. Thank you, Varsha, and I think we might.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.